What's up? We have an opportunity to really, talk about some stuff as checked out on a lot of what happens with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and whatnot. I mean, with the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer being released not too long ago, it really shows exactly what it is that I'm talking about. And I would encourage you guys to watch a lot of my old material. When I was enthusiastic about this sort of stuff, one in particular, in terms of what I'm about to speak about, kind of ties into that whole "Who is Thanos." That was one of my first big kind of like coverages of like lore dive videos and stuff. My "Who is Thanos" series. You can go watch that more older material. I do have a playlist with that in mind, and I don't really care how much you like the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, or how enthusiastic you are about it. That's not necessarily what this is. These guys don't know what they're doing with some of these characters that get introduced, because I do think that there's no true cohesion with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it hasn't been for a long time. I think just like the comic books, it became one of those things where it's like you get a movie, you get a movie, you get a movie, and do whatever it is that you want. Maybe we have a pool of characters that you can choose from to include, but ultimately we're not wanting you guys to be knowledgeable, let's say, on some kind of source material, as well as constantly working together with your colleagues to make a cohesive story. Now, I talked about this before Warlock was even like announced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is our first look at him in the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer. It doesn't look too good. You're completely correct. That's not even what I want to focus on. That's the layup. That's the easy part. But you want to talk about layups. I posted about this here, and I said they have no idea what they're doing over there. It's utterly pointless to bring him in now, considering Thanos is gone. This is a botched opportunity. And I called it a botched opportunity when it happened. I don't think Warlock was one of those characters that was tied up in some of the rights issues that they had, because they alluded to him existing in a previous Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And when you consider who Adam Warlock is, what he is essentially known for in the comic books, to have Thanos there and not utilize the character when you introduced him was moronic. That was a dropped ball completely, and it was a botched opportunity. Now, everybody's going to have their theories as to why exactly it happened, but it happened nonetheless. I don't know what that is on his forehead, if that's going to be one of the Infinity Gems that like it was in the comics. I have no idea. But when you had an opportunity, like you really, because let me tell you this. Often, a lot of the, main storylines in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even when it was seen more favorably, were stories that they pulled from comics, be it Ultron deal, Civil War, the whole from Infinity War to all the Thanos quest basically is in the background, while then you move into like the Infinity Gauntlet arc with the whole snap and all of that. I covered all this stuff on my channel. This was such a botched opportunity, because you then even alluded to a Marvel existing. Now, I don't want to rile myself up, because y'all know how I feel about how they did Marvel in the Captain Marvel movie, which is a pointless movie. By the way, it was one of the most criminal things that I had ever seen done in cinema. Let's just say that. What they did to Marvel. But they did it, okay? They did it. But what that movie should have been, and I've made this argument before, is that movie, if you needed something between those movies, was it Infinity War, Endgame, or whatever, you should have did a Thanos origin film. If you were going to tell it in the past, that was your way to introduce a Marvel. You could have had one of the major storylines in that be a, Thanos origin. So you're dealing with, you could deal with the Cosmic Cube arc, maybe something like that he had knowledge of it. He had some sort of conflict with it before. That's how you introduce kind of Marvel. But you also had an opportunity with Adam Warlock, though kind of gets messed up because you're making it seem like he was created after the fact. But those were the botched opportunities to bring, let's say, a character in that could impact the story while also showing love to the people that actually read this material. And that's, I think, what so many normies don't seem to understand, because, of course, they're selfish and they think it's all about them. And they wrongfully assume that the people that will gripe about this stuff think that, and it's going to be, I guarantee you, somebody in the comment section of this or whatever, the books or they'll say the movies don't have to be exactly like the books. I don't know one person that is a super fan of like Marvel's comics or DC comics for that matter that has asked that it be a direct 1-by-1 adaptation. Now, I'd make the argument that it wouldn't matter to you. It's a new story to you as a normie in any way it goes. So even if it was as close as they could get to a 1-by-1 adaptation, you still eat it up. So that's neither here nor there. But I don't think that's the expectation most people have of these stories. Even me, as a guy that's been very knowledgeable on it and talked about it doing these videos, that's not what the expectation is. But you can still show love to the material that you're pulling from. The issue happens is when you get characters that act nothing like their comic book counterparts. And then you get issues like this where you botch a complete storyline where you could have, imagine that if they actually did bring in Warlock, like, that scene where Captain Marvel flies in for a pointless fight with was that at Endgame or whatever that was, a pointless fight with Thanos to really show how strong she is, but she has no bearing on the outcome. She was a completely, let's say her introduction didn't make any sense. I feel like there was a pivot at some point with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know if it was because, I know they had aspirations to introduce her, but I don't know if it was the pivot of like, hey, Wonder Woman saw the success, we need an individual character, we don't have the rights with like some of the most prominent female heroes, because really Marvel's most prominent female heroes for the most part are all tied up in like X-Men, okay? And you can't really introduce them, so here's your opportunity to have one prominent female character, and they just kind of just introduced her just for the sake of introducing her. But none of that makes sense because it has no bearing on the outcome of like, even though it's told in the past, and yes, she does show up, it doesn't even make sense. They haven't really explained where she was at during that entire period of time other than, hey, well, she's just off because Earth has heroes and other people need help. Okay, I guess that doesn't make sense. Let's just say that. But either way, you could have had that person that comes in and actually impacts the fight between Thanos and the rest of the crowd, the field, be much like it was. Yes, I understand you couldn't introduce Silver Surfer because a lot of the rights had been tied up like you could have if you were doing a 1-by-1 adaptation. Neither here nor there. That person that was coming from the sky to really impact this whole deal should have been Adam Warlock, right? If it wasn't gonna have to be Marvel, have it be Adam Warlock, okay? And it would have made sense. It would have been one of those things where you kind of dropped the nugget that Adam existed anyway. But also, it was something that would have said, hey, I got you. Fans that have carried this material before it ever appeared in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a lot of where this stuff is pulled from, we got you, right? Everybody's happy. But, hell, we have a lot of instances. It's funny, James Gunn, with him being one of the ones that's doing this and some of his DC work where he's told actors that, hey, don't even read the source material because we're not going to reference it. Or rather, he doesn't want that actor to have knowledge. He's specifically said that. We've covered this. Botched opportunity. And now it's pointless. And it's funny because didn't they introduce in one of the movies, was Eternals or something like that, where they introduced Thanos' brother? Think about that. This could have it's too late. You've killed him off. They're probably going to do this multiversal bullcrap, but you killed him off. Like, could you imagine if they did a Thanos origin film? Then you get the whole story of his grandfather. You get the Chrono situation. You get the Eros. You get all of that introduced there. And it's funny because you had Drax and you had characters that were tied to him already there. So imagine if out of that you could have entered into this like Infinity Gauntlet or more so that arc after, which was what was it called? The Infinity I'm losing it. Infinity Watch with Adam Warlock, because you have Drax, you have Gamora that are already there. Maybe try to get Fit Pip Troll and all those guys. You could have done all that, right? Because now you have the actual characters that are necessary. Drax isn't Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy. The guy that it was specifically created to destroy Thanos does not act like Drax at all. like he should, but you had those characters there. And, there's so much you could have explored if you did a Thanos origin film with him, doing its thing on their basically home planet that was repopulated by essentially was a grandfather who then became a cosmic being. I went through all that in the Who is Thanos series, and you should go watch all of that. It's also a funny one because that would have been a way, if they wanted to check all these boxes, one of the more notable bisexual characters in the comics is Moondragon. You could have Phyla-Vell. If you did the Marvel situation, you could have introduced Phyla-Vell as well, because you're talking about this whole ordeal, and Moondragon plays a role in that, right? And Moondragon being what? She's technically like the daughter of Drax or whatever. Like, there was so much opportunity that you guys had there, and you just neglected it. For what? And now you introduce Thanos' brother. You introduce Adam Warlock after Thanos is long gone. It's pointless. Now you just, hey, it's an IP for him. We have this character. Let's just use him. And I think that's the frustration. If you're not knowledgeable on the books, it's more of, these are easy things. Look, man, these fans are not asking you to just bend over backwards for their material. No, it's like, dude, show some love. Show us that you actually care about these people, that this material doesn't exist. Had it not been for these creatives, had it not been for these supporters, these customers of this work, and then you just bastardize these characters. And then when someone says something, you think that, oh, well, he's just being man baby and being toxic, and not everything has to, which is a straw man. Not everything has to be exactly like the comics. Is not what anybody's asking. Layups. It's the easiest thing that they could have done. You please both crowds. You please the normies who are going to eat it up anyway. You please the people that are knowledgeable on this material. But this is just an example of the fact that these guys have no idea what it is that they're doing. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.